Hey, y'all. Happy Monday. It is Miss McCrae, and we are going to talk quickly about absolutism today. Absolutism, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on because we're going to spend 2 days on the Enlightenment this week, which is like super lit. Haha, do you? I hope you like my joke. Anyway, so when we talk about absolutism, the root word of absolutism is going to be absolute. And so when you think about absolute, take a moment and just think about what does the word absolute mean to you? When we think of the word absolute, it means, like if you absolutely have to do it, it's like mandatory. If someone has absolute power, that means that all the power resides with them or they have all of it. So today we're going to talk about absolutism in relation to monarchs. So, really quick, I want to refresh you that absolute monarchs or a monarch in general is a king or queen. And so, remember, you've learned about kings and queens throughout world history or emperors, and a lot of times they have absolute power. They don't really answer to anybody. And so, we're going to talk about what that looks like today. I just want to remind you that it is in your best interest to write your notes out. You don't know this week if I'll request to see them or ask for pictures, but also these notes can help you prepare for your check for understanding. It can help you be more successful in other activities throughout the week. So honor yourself, pull out a sheet of paper, and take some time to write this. You can do it at your own pace. So when we talk about absolutism, you're going to look at this image of this person today on your Padlet, and that should be how you open your unit. And I will tell you tomorrow who this guy is. All right. So, your essential question is how did absolutism spark new ideas and theories that led to changes in the political thought during the 16th and 17th century? So, essentially, if you had to put this in your own words or you just kind of had to break it down a little bit, absolutism or the absolute monarch is going to create new ideas and theories for government. Especially in the 16th and 17th century. So, whatever the opposite of a monarch would be, and if you had to think about what would be the opposite, what form of government do you think would be the opposite of a monarch or more beneficial to the people? So, what is absolutism? So, absolutism is the acceptance of or belief a monarch has absolute power in politics without any checks or balances. In the United States right now, we have three branches of government and they check themselves or they check each other. So, the executive, judicial, and legislative branch cannot, neither branch is more stronger than the other. They all check and balance each other in different ways. We'll talk more about this when we talk about Montesquieu later in the unit. So, what are the characteristics of an absolute monarch? First of all, they use divine right to rule. In your notes right here, you want to put that they believe that God picked them to be the monarch and pick their family. That is how they acquire power during this time. I want you to think about, yes, we just got done talking about the Renaissance and people are Christian humanists and they still believe, they believe in like worldly, secular things, but they also believe in the power of God and the church. And so monarchs are going to say, well, God picked my family. God picked me to be leader. So if you argue with me, you argue with God. And people are going to be like, I don't want to argue with God. I love God. So keep that in mind, adding that to your notes. Also, political sovereignty. So I like to point out the root word is reign here. And political sovereignty means that you take centralized control of all aspects of the government. So that means that they make themselves the center and the core of the government, and they are in complete control. And some of these aspects include the economy, war, domestic affairs, which next to the word domestic, you want to add home. These are things that happen at home, but also foreign affairs. So I want you to think about kings and queens. If kings or queens are beefing with another king, they could lead their people into war to take the land or to fight that person. Well, that's dealing with foreign affairs, but it's also domestic because they're sending their armies, And so it's thinking about having one person decides whether a whole group of people goes to war is very interesting. Also, the one big flaw with absolute monarchs is there's a lack of checks and balances on political power. There is no council, there's no parliament, there's no Congress, there's no court that absolute monarchs answer to. And I want you to think about in the Middle Ages, we talked about King John the Soft Sword and how he had the Magna Carta. Well, the Magna Carta was signed because his barons knew that he was abusing his power, and eventually they created Parliament, where the king had to answer to the Parliament and consult them for advice. That is very similar to the president having to listen to Congress, just like Congress and the president have to also answer and listen to the Supreme Court in the United States. Something to think about. So, that is my last slide for absolutism today. Take your notes, take your time, make sure you answer your questions in your play posit. Email me if you have any questions or concerns.